Hi, everyone, and welcome back to The Things We Know. I'm Lisa Callahan.
And I'm Carrie Morin. And today is the last show of 2023. Wow, what a year.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, technically, we haven't been doing this a full year because we
Nope.
launched in March, but this is the final episode of our season one. We're just going to make it tied to the calendar year. And it's crazy. I can't, this is what, 47 episodes this year. I'm still blown away on a daily basis that A, we're doing this, and B, the feedback that we're getting. What about
I
you?
know. I love it. It just becomes my favorite day of the week when we record these. I look forward to it. You're right. I love hearing from people I didn't even know were listening. And
Right.
it's what keeps us going, I think, just continuing these conversations.
Also, I think it's funny to me the ones that we get more feedback on. Like it's for the most part, they're the unexpected episodes that I feel like I get people saying like, "Oh my god, I love this one." I'm like, "Really? Okay, great."
True. Yes.
So interesting. But we yeah,
Yeah, that's
we're
true. Because there was some that I was like, oh, I don't know about this one. And then it ended up
right.
being the favorite of people. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
It is interesting, and we're starting to get more subscribers on YouTube, which is fun. So somehow we're popping up there, and our Gen X men, we're getting comments from people we don't even know, and that's so it's growing. As anything, I don't, won't speak for you. I wish it was growing faster because I just
Mhm.
feel like I love what we're talking about. We'll have a little teaser trailer for season two, but things have shifted a lot. I think from what our not a lot, but I do think our vision has shifted a little over the course of these
Totally.
47 episodes. Yeah.
Totally. And it's interesting. And I'll say more in that. Well, you'll hear me say more in that little teaser trailer. But I do think when I think of the conception of this and where I was, right, on
Mm.
that journey for myself, right, whatever this journey is for women of a certain age, as we were calling it, I was in a really like, oh yes, like I'm in a oh yes place of it. I had no idea the turbulence ahead of me at that time,
Mm.
and so
Hmm.
it's become a lot more about navigating it with grace and hilarity and finding moments of joy versus like conquering it. And that's okay. It's been a beautiful journey. But it's funny how it's not just me too. It's turbulence in the world,
Yeah.
turbulence in my life, and the tools and the people that have made it, you know, for me more than just survivable, but thrivable.
Yeah, agree. Totally. And our initial inclination on why we did this, which was we want other women to understand that they're not alone in what they're going through, I think has come back in feedback time and time again,
Mhm.
which so I still feel really great about why we're doing this. And again, we'll say more in our teaser trailer. But
Yes. Yes.
for now, let's
Today.
kick off our final episode of 2024.
Yes. So today we want to.
2023. Sorry.
Oh,
2023. I'm already skipping ahead till next year.
that's okay. Today, our last show of 2023, we want to ask and answer what lights you up because it's different for everyone. So I want to really emphasize what lights you up is all that matters, right? So whoever's listening, it's different, but we want to talk about that.
Yeah, and being that it is the last episode of the calendar year, you might be listening to this in February of 2024 for all I know, but it it is a great it's a nice follow-up to last week's 5 stages of transformation, because ultimately until you know what lights you up, it's hard to decide that you want to transform. It's hard to set a goal until you know what it is that lights you up. And again, as we celebrate the end of this year, moving into the next year, we want to invite you to let go of dimming your light and not going all in on your life and making it the best chapter yet.
Mhm. Give me chills. And I guess what you and we are posing is that, call it passion, call it purpose. What drives you and how do you tap into it? Or how do you reignite it if the light's gone out?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What lights us up? Let's start with us, right? I love this question because it wasn't always an easy answer for me. And I know it isn't for most people. or I wouldn't have a job.
Yep. We would just be
Um,
podcasting.
yes. And for me, it's changed a lot over time as I grew more aware of who I am and like what makes me me, right? And versus just who I need to be, who do I need to be and for whom and all that. But really, truly focusing inward is how I, recognized that. And so it's changed for me over time. But for me, if I were to talk about like what lights me up and why I light up, doing this podcast is connection is huge for me when I look back at who I am and my human design, but also just who I am and what I've been drawn to. And when I feel most alive, the most passionate version of myself, it's when I'm engaged in or like the facilitator of connection, right? So I'm connecting with people I love, connecting with people who are stretching me and growing me. Like I am creating connection for people with themselves or with other people. I remember someone used to call me a connector or a pollinator. Like I used to love even like socially just getting people together and knowing like, how they would kind of seeing that would be a really good fit. I don't like to set people up. I have done it, but I do love to set up friends, right? Like potential friends and bring together. So I love that. So connection. The other two words that really, I think, are part of what lights me up is impact. And, that's big for both of us in human design, but like
Yeah.
really, it's a little different for me if in the human design lens, like understand like how I can impact somebody else's journey, right? Like, how I can help somebody else make an impact is like it's sort of the indirect impact, but also just as a mom or as somebody who's important in someone's life, like the impact I can have on them, which leads me to the last one, love. Like love is a big driver. And I remember in one of my human design readings, it was actually in two different ones with two different people. It was like, you're here to really show people what unconditional love looks like. And that's huge for me. I get emotional even thinking that, like, that is just a big piece of who I am. And it sounds kind of silly now that I'm saying, but it was a big it is a big thing that lights me up.
But again, I think, we talked at the end of last episode about how you could work with either one of us as your coach. And I think that does strike me as something that is an absolute strength of yours, that unconditional love. I know you do lots of things in your coaching, but I guess because my interactions with you, when I've asked you to sort of support me on things, has been from this place of the inner game work. And so I think when you have a coach who understands unconditional love for humanity versus just their family, right? That makes the inner game work easier to do when you have somebody in your corner like you who unconditionally loves you and your vision. So I don't think that's not cheesy at all.
So what about you? What lights you up?
I mean, I want to just say same, but that would be a cop out. I think, connection for me has always been big as well. I think, I grew up with close to my family. It's funny, I'm going through boxes of pictures and storage and I'm coming across like my childhood, especially on my mom's side. We had family get-togethers were big. I mean, we had cousins and aunts and uncles, and it's dwindled down to just the core of us out here in LA for the most part. But like when I think about Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving, I think about these big parties where everybody's drinking and playing games. And I mean, I came across pictures from my family playing games, and just looking at the pictures, I can remember laughing and crying, and because it was so funny. And so connection is huge for me. I actually have really gotten to a point where I do love connecting people. I would never set anybody up either. But like one of my favorite things about my networking group that I belong to is I feel like you have an issue, I got somebody for you. I have one client who every time she comes on a call, she's like, I'm needing to work on this. I'm like, I got somebody. I need to work on this. I'm like, I got somebody. And if I don't have them, I know a connection to get. So I really do love that being able to support people with other people for sure. As a manifester, impact is huge for me, and instigating that. So it is the reason I wanted to do this pod, is to be able to have a broader impact on women and having them live their best life. So I guess ultimately the answer is same. It's connection, it's impact, it's love. And I do feel like I was put on this earth to support people to reach their goals, whether it's modeling the way I move or have moved through my life, or actually physically working with somebody. There is just nothing more fun to me than cheering somebody on. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Which kind of moves us into, passion and purpose. And these are things that like we could talk about all day long, because we love this. And we also know, having young adults who are like, growing up in the world of what do you want to do? What do you want to be? These can really be stressful questions. It's like when you ask a young mom with little kids, like, what's your hobby? And they're like, fuck off. But like asking, like, what are you passionate about? And I remember just being like, it's okay if you don't know what your passion is. What are you curious about? Follow that and see where it leads you. Like that, like there's a way to step in the shallow end and get there. So if you're listening and going, I don't know what my passion or purpose is, that's okay. What are you curious about? What do you have fun? Like, what do you think about even when you're not even thinking about what you're thinking about? Right. So,
I think when you talk about what lights you up, it should be a physical feeling in your body.
Right. And if you're super stressed and you're far away from yourself, you may not have access to it right away.
Correct.
So we're going to get into that. But first I want to say, like, it reminds me of, in retreats that I've done in the past, and this will probably be in our upcoming one. I've brought in that, that ancient story of the Hawaiian bowl of light. I do this a lot with my clients as well, which is, I've lost it. I thought I had it right here. Sorry. Oh, here it is. Basically, that each child is born with a perfect bowl of light that reflects, their energy and the sovereignty of who they are, right? But as we grow, each thing that we hear or believe about ourselves, or take on that someone else hasn't worked out, is kind of putting a stone or a leaf or something that's blocking out that light, right? So the idea that if we can learn to either polish those things so they reflect our light, or really just turn that bowl over and uncover that light, that we can all get back to it, right? So I love that as an example for this. Of course, I didn't have the exact quote where it sounds really pretty, but that's basic idea.
You have to come to our retreat to hear
yes, it. Exactly. There's a whole exercise around that. But that idea that we all have it. It's just that if our light is dim, it's because we took on other people's stuff in the way of rocks and stones and pebbles and filled our bowl with it. We kind of took on too much. So if your light's feeling kind of dim, there's a way to uncover that and get back to it.
Well, and I think, isn't that on some level exactly why we started this pod? Is, we say it sort of, I'm paraphrasing, but, we want you to get back to the happiest, sexiest version of yourself. And, we were hearing a lot of women getting to this time of life and being confused because they have taken on partnership roles, mother roles, familial roles, right? They don't have to be a mom. They could be an aunt. They could be a grandma, whatever it might be. And all of those things, even if you love it, bring somebody else's energy into your bowl. And all of your sudden you're so buried. And now maybe it's empty nesting. So those things are leaving your bowl and you're sort of like, now what? And, so the first step of asking, what lights me up? What makes me happy? What makes me feel fun and lighthearted? Curiosity. Let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have cultivated, and by we, I'm going to give the shout out once again to Kari, because Kari has cultivated this and you brought it to me to help talk about. I don't want to take credit for something she does all the work on. we've cultivated a list so that can
We
really
are
help you.
we are a team.
I know we're a team, but you really, I mean, again, last episode of the season, I want to give full props to all the research and all that you do to put together these outlines for us to talk about, because yes, we come on and riff and oftentimes go very off script, but you are the one that bring them forward to begin with. So thank you.
Welcome.
Okay.
From my nerdy self. You're welcome.
I love it. I love it. So anyways, we've got a list. So let's talk a little bit about these. First one, I think we've sort of already hit, which is self-reflection. Taking a few minutes here over the course of this last week of the year, or whenever you're listening to this, and take a few quiet moments, sit down, brainstorm, brain dump, ask yourself, if you could wave a magic wand, what truly makes you feel alive, fulfilled, happy? What ignites that excitement and enthusiasm in your heart, in your mind, in your body? What could you do all day long and not get tired or bored? I mean, truly, for me, it is coaching. On my coaching days, I just feel like I'm buzzing with excitement and the energy of watching the women and the couple men that I work with going for what they want. Oh my God, just nothing better.
Yeah, so true. Oh, I love that. Explore your interests is another one, right? We kind of covered this as well. Be open to trying new things or exploring a variety of interests or picking back up on things that you used to love. Somebody asked me like, what's something new you're learning? And I was like, God, I'm not doing enough of that. Like, because I feel like I was in such a mode for so long to be taking on new things. And so I think it's, it's like, oh, I want to pick the ukulele back up and, and do that because I learned it a long time ago, but I kind of unlearned it. But like, what's brand new? And I watched that with my kids. Like Peter's like onto the harmonica now, or, just taking on new things. So that could be also like, just explore it. You might hate it, but you'll learn more about yourself.
Yeah.
Your passions may evolve over time. So it's important to stay open. Look, like if you're just following the curiosity thing, see if there's classes that you never know what's gonna just really ignite that, like, ooh, I kind of like this. I like me when I'm doing this. Events, topics. Yeah, anything that piques your curiosity really is just exploring your interests with no attachment to what that's supposed to look like.
And as you do this exploring, know that your brain is going to attach and go, who are you two? Why are you doing this? And so knowing that, especially something like going into a class, you are the new person. You aren't going to know anything. It will feel slightly uncomfortable at the beginning, but you're only new for a few minutes.
And maybe in a class, everyone's new, it's you're all starting together. Maybe Brene Brown calls these FFTs, first fucking time, because nobody loves that.
No, not even somebody as outgoing as I am. I hate to go to somewhere new that I don't know anybody. So I absolutely feel you. The next one is identifying your values. What are your core values and beliefs? What principles and causes are important to you? I was thinking about, actually, I was kind of meant to say this when we talked about what lights me up. For me, advocacy is very important. I know it is for you as well. And we are entering into an election year with a lot at stake for women and their ability to make their own healthcare choices. So I foresee, I have relaxed, gave myself some space and time since 2020 to not be all in, because I was all in for so many years. But I am drawn and called again to make sure in 2024 that people are voting, that they understand what's at stake. So, and a value for me around all this, I mean, that is absolutely something that lights me up. Advocacy, for sure.
I love that. Another one is seeking inspiration. Surround yourself with people who inspire you and share your interests, or maybe they just inspire you and they have interests that you're curious about. Engage with mentors, peers, role models, anyone who is, if you are surrounding yourself with people among whom there's at least one person who sees you, really sees you. I think you're going to feel the spark of inspiration.
Yeah. I love that. Overcome fear and doubt. This is a biggie. Easier said than done. I already said it, but your brain is going to pop in there and be like, you've been fine all these years. Why do you need to make these changes? And, it's a natural part of your brain. It's not going to go away. It keeps you safe. And that's when you have the conversation with it. Thank you so much, but I'm ready to move on. So whatever you can do to sort of, recognize the feelings that they're happening, understanding that they're there to serve you, even if the way it's doing it isn't particularly helpful. And then just taking some baby steps to overcome it, because that's really what it comes down to. Once you do the thing, then and you realize you quote unquote survived, it's a lot easier to do the next thing. We're not talking about skydiving. I mean, it might be your thing, but you've got to take some steps to get there, so the ultimate goal is the ultimate thing that lights you up. There might be some little baby step milestones that gets you there to begin with.
Totally. Okay. The next one is setting goals. I think this is key because there's two parts of this. You want to define what your goal is here. My goal is to feel lit up, right? Or my goal is to really get a sense of like, what I would want to be doing to feel the most me, right? Like the most like myself. So you want to be clear about that. It doesn't have to be a massive goal, just maybe achievable and clear, right? And it helps you kind of create a sense of direction and motivation, because when you have a goal and you start to make progress, it lights you up, right? Like progress equals happiness. It just feeling like, oh, I've actually achieved something really can kind of be the beginning of that spark. But next and more important is breaking down that goal into really manageable steps. We call it chunking it down, right? Making it easier to stay on track. And that can look like, hey, this is like where those couch to 5K things work. Like today is just walking around the block.
Yeah.
Yay me. This leads to that, right? So I think goals that are achievable and that excite you. So it's like somewhere not so achievable that it doesn't excite you, but not like so big that you're gonna just feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel really strongly that when that part of your brain comes in and says, "Who are you to?" When that fear and doubt and stuff comes in, that means you're on the right track, because we don't feel that way when we're staying a steady course. So those little steps that you make forward and you overcome each little chunk, right? You're stretching yourself. And that is, that's transformational right there.
Totally.
So then the next is taking action. So now you've got the goals, you've chunked it down. Now you need to act on these things. If it just, again, information without implementation is just clutter. So take some risks. Fail fast. That you might learn that you're not as passionate as you thought, or you might really start to feel it up and through your body as you start to do these things and you start to move forward. I remember for years I had a friend who ran a boot camp and I poo-pooed it for a bit, but then I went the first day and I was like, oh, this is amazing, and it's like all of a sudden your passion increases because you have hit these, and it might grow, or you might make changes. You might decide it's not the thing. That's okay.
I know you're reminding me that for a lot of people who I admire, working out is what lights them up. That's it. I think this one's so important. Embrace learning. Really, I can't imagine like the informed mind not being lit up, right? Because like literally, like the light bulb is the sign of, learning something. I have an idea. I have some new information. So the more you expose yourself to ideas and activities and ways people are spending their time, the more you're going to find something that clicks for you.
Yeah. So then, and we sort of touched base on this a little bit, but it is being flexible and willing to change, because as you move forward towards these goals, as you try new things and you adapt and change, there might be there might be a little side street you take, or a little, again, transformation's not linear. Finding your passion's not linear. There's lots of twists and turns. And if you get really rigid around the only way to find my passion is to follow these steps, you're going to miss a lot of opportunity to grow and expand. And if it doesn't resonate anymore, that's okay. You can let it go. We don't have to always be completionists.
Yeah, that's true. I remember being really hard on myself a long time ago about like, oh, you didn't finish that, or you didn't finish that. And then it was reframed for me, and I love it. I love helping people with that reframe. What if you got out of it what you needed to get out of it before you pivoted in the direction you're meant to go? Right. So I think that's always a great reminder. Another way to tap into, it's always a good shortcut to reigniting your spark is giving back.
Yeah.
Sometimes just a sense of purpose comes from contributing to a greater cause. That might not be what you end up doing, but it could be the thing that really just, really helps you expand in that heart space around like, oh, I like this feeling. How do I get more of this? So just consider how your passions can be used to make a positive impact on your community, or use the opportunity to get in touch with that part of yourself.
Yeah, I love that. So, again, we have a great session on identifying your purpose. So if you want to explore this a little bit more, if this all sounds like, oh, this sounds great, don't know where to begin, just trying to get done with the holidays and move into the new year, this could be, again, another great opportunity to explore this conversation with Kari or I. Shall you if you see fit, which our calendar links are in the show notes.
Definitely. I also want to say, like, tapping into your own gratitude, as it gives you access to that as well. So I think that's an important thing for me anyway, when I'm feeling a little like dim.
Or I mean, for me, and I just had this conversation yesterday with someone around the idea of when I'm feeling a little low. Like, I was having this conversation with this woman, and we were talking about her wanting to look at maybe changing careers. And I said, well, and she kept talking about her skill set. And I said, well, tell me your skill set. She gave me all this big, long list. In my mind, I'm sitting there listening to her like, wow, that's really awesome. She's like, I just don't know how any of that translates. And I was like, okay. But I invited her to put together a list of the things she's proud of. So it's gratitude, but it's also tapping into, oftentimes when we're looking to make a change, when we're looking to reignite a purpose or find a new passion, we think we're starting from square one, and we forget that we've accomplished so much in our lives already. I mean, literally so much. And starting from a place of, look at everything I've already done. If I can do this, I can do this, right? Like, we can do hard things, Glennon Doyle's thing, right? So I think really acknowledging what you have already accomplished can kind of do the pilot light, right? It can kind of start and go, okay, I've done all this, next.
Right.
So it's sort of gratitude, but it's also celebration and acknowledgement.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. Or I just call you.
Also that. Or polo or text or whatever.
Yes. So you chose a song for today?
I did. At first I thought, I don't know if this exactly works, but then I was listening to it this morning and I was like, I'll be damned, it does work. We're going to end the year with a little Harry Styles. It's not the latest album. It was the album before, but this album means a lot to me because my mom loved this album right before she passed. It was out. So it is literally just lights up. So it says, shine, step into the light, shine, so bright sometimes, shine, I'm not ever going back, shine, step into the light, shine, so bright sometimes, shine, step into the light. And that's just really what it is. When you acknowledge what lights you up, step into it.
I love that. It also just makes me think of come to the light.
Okay, now then you're dying.
I know, but it always cracked me up because it's from, movie from when we were kids. And I always think, I mean, yes, if you want to think of it as dying, but I also just think of like light as being like this really beautiful, warm invitation, like to feeling really good. So not to get morbid, but like there's something also really beautiful about that image too. I love like shine, light, and like the glow of humanity. I just think it's beautiful.
And this is not a one and done. You're going to be working probably your entire life to grab on to different times and different passions and purposes. If you're 30 and you're listening to this, your passion and your purpose is completely different than being 54, than being 64, than being 74. And hallelujah. How
And
great is
yeah,
that?
I mean, depending on what you've been through, right? Like
Right.
somebody, we know so many people who feel spit out the other end of a straw after conquering cancer. So like the
Yeah.
things that used to light them up are very different than the things that light them up now, right? And I think that it's just you get to define it.
Yeah. Over and over and over again. And how exciting is that?
I know.
So, speaking of exciting, that is the final episode for season 1 of The Things We Know here in 2023. Speaking of gratitude, we say it all the time, but we'll continue to say it. We are so, so very grateful for all of our listeners. Those of you who follow us on social media, those of you who have joined our mailing list, those of you who have reached out and said, hey, can you talk about this? I mean, there have definitely been some episodes this season that have been viewer driven, or listener, not viewer. Well, could be viewing on YouTube, listener driven. And we look forward to 2024 bringing even more of that in. We already have a quarter's worth of ideas laid out, and we're super excited for all of that. And look, Kari is so excited. She's just jumping on sunshine. If you're watching on YouTube.
I did not know it. I was trying to mute because my dog was barking and I just got, yeah, that looked really well timed, didn't it?
It did. It really did.
I love that. I love that picture, obviously, because it's my, I just wanted to follow up and say Happy New Year. And in this new year, Lisa and I both, we wish you joy, peace, laughter, and so much light in this year ahead and beyond. And we're just so grateful for you.
Absolutely. So thanks, everyone. Happy New Year, and we will see you in 2024.